Hi and welcome to this webinar, and I'm thinking about talking about the current status and challenges of the macro trends that are within the automotive industries. And these trends are the biggest changes in the automotive industry for decades, and it could be that they are even the biggest change ever in the automotive industry, and it's causing turbulence. So super short about me. So I'm Svante Svanberg, so we said that, and I've more than 20 years experience with connectivity, and the last 11 years I have worked with connectivity towards automotive. I've been with Telenor IoT 6 years working with IoT towards automotive around the globe. And now to today's subject. So I was thinking about talking about the current trend status. What is the status and challenges in the automotive industry that we see? And I will wrap this webinar around the C.A.S.E.D concept. And the C.A.S.E.D concept we talked about for years. I think I heard about it the first time in 2016 or 17. And I will not go into details exactly what this means. So if you have not heard about it before, you will get the picture really quick. And if you have heard about it, just listen in, because my thinking was to talk on what has happened with these trends since we first started to talk about this 6 years ago. And how far have we come? So let's check on where we are on these. You guys that have not heard about C.A.S.E.D, you can see that it says that it stands for connectivity, autonomous, electrified, I forgot to shared, right? Electrified and digitized. And on top of this, I will add one more trend that covers all of these. And then I will also talk a little bit of what is my solution to overcome these challenges. Okay, so let's start with connectivity. And all cars are more or less connected today. So the status is, yes, all cars are connected. Some have very simple services and some have very advanced services. One of the things driving this is legislation. So for instance, e-call that was legislated as mandatory in EU in 2018, April, I believe. The connected services will now, of course, since they've been on the market for quite some time, they will become more and more extensive and more advanced. And it's putting the light on other types of challenges than the connectivity for the connectivity. So the connectivity we can solve, but it could be issues such as local legislations. So different countries have different legislations when it comes to connected vehicles, and that is causing a bit of headache. But also when it comes to connectivity, that is an enabler for the new software-shaped car. And I will come back to what I mean with software-shaped car later on in this presentation when I talked about digitized. But connectivity is also an enabler for all the other parts of the C.A.S.E.D trends that we see here. So to be autonomous, an autonomous car that is connected will be smarter than an autonomous car that is not connected. And for the shared services, connectivity is an enabler. For electrified services, a car will still work and be electrified without connectivity, but it will need that to be able to charge and to be able to work with the grid and so forth. And also when it comes to digitalization, it also needs to be connected. So connectivity, the status of connectivity, so connectivity is there, connectivity has already happened, and we know that connectivity will also grow. So let's leave that and let's talk a little bit about autonomous. So what we mean when we talk about autonomous is that cars are being fully autonomous, and we also know that we have defined 5 different steps of the autonomy. But what we've seen with the status of autonomous is that this is taking some time. It's not going as quick as we thought. And why is that? Well, it's fairly easy to make an autonomous car, but it's very complicated to make an autonomous car that can manage any type of situation that is out there. Also, there is a parallel debate about control towers and street signs that can communicate to the car and so forth. So building that entire ecosystem with control towers and street signs, etc., and standardizing these, it takes a very long time. However, we have companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, Walmart, and also the usual suspects, Toyota, Volkswagen, Tesla, General Motors, to name a few, that we know are investing money in this. So if we follow the money, this is going to happen, but we probably have to wait until 2030 or even longer before we see fully autonomous cars roaming the streets. One thing interesting is that General Motors, they are seeking US approval to drive an autonomous car in US without a steering wheel. So let's see where that goes, but obviously they want to push this. Also worth mentioning when it comes to autonomous is that the autonomous vehicles will most likely be autonomous in gated areas. It could be harbors, or it could be quarries and things like that. And for instance, Volvo Group, we know that they are driving autonomous tests solution in quarries and mines. And of course that's good because you can't really hurt anybody than if you drive them in public areas. Also, there is a saying that delivering goods will be autonomous much faster than delivering people, because goods are not in a hurry. So they will probably use the possibility to have autonomous vehicles that goes fairly slow. Okay, so again, I said before that if an autonomous car needs to be able to work without connectivity, but if it is connected, it will be smarter because it will get more information from the cloud or from other vehicles surrounding that car or vehicle. Also, and as an addition, when it comes to autonomous, we need industry-wide standards. And this is important. We do not need OEM-specific ecosystems. So it's important that the industry work together with these type of industry-wide standards. I talked to the president of C.A.S.E.D, and she said that C.A.S.E.D are working with autonomous solutions, and they're saying that what it all ends up in is that we need to collect data from vehicles. We need to learn from that data, and we need to collect more data over and over again. So she summarized this as, okay, this is going forward, we're learning every day, but it will take some time. Okay, jumping on the next subject, and we have shared. And so the thinking with shared is that everybody should not have a vehicle, or everybody should at least not have 2 vehicles. So the thinking was that we have dense cities where everybody can't have their own vehicle. Sharing vehicles is a solution for that. However, sharing vehicle is not growing where we thought it would. We thought, when we first talked about this, we thought that cars that are big and perhaps need a dedicated parking lot would be the fastest growing use case for this. Instead, we see that micro-mobility is the fastest growing use case. So we have kick bikes, we have mopeds. A lot in Asian cities, they use shared mopeds and bicycles. So that has grown, and it's grown so fast that it has become a bit of a problem and needs to be straightened out. So, for instance, in Paris, they restricted the use of kick bikes on the street just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and we have cities that has set up more rules and regulations where you can park the kick bikes. Still, even though kick bikes is growing fastest when it comes to share, we believe that cars will be shared, mainly for people living in cities, but more when they are autonomous. So autonomous and shared are kind of like combined. So when we are entering the autonomous robot taxi age, so we have autonomous taxis, they will be shared even more. So it will be easier to share than when they are fully autonomous. And we also believe in sharing specific rides when traffic is dense to avoid more traffic, and also to avoid the lack of robot taxis. Also believe in a grade system of passengers, because if you're sharing a ride with a stranger, you want to know that that person is reliable and that you could actually pay a little bit extra to avoid riding with low-grade strangers. And obviously, when it comes to shared, cloud connectivity is a necessity for this to work. Okay, let's leave shared and jump to electrified. And electrified, this is, as you know, it's already here. It's happened so fast that few could see this happening, even though some did. Elon Musk did, for instance. And Tesla was really early on the ball, and Tesla is really pushing the rest of the more mature industry into this. It is causing some pain, though. Traditional automakers, they have thousands of people working with different parts of the combustion engine, and they made large investments when it comes to this. So the staff needs to be retrained, and the investments that they have done needs to be depreciated. New staff with new competence needs to be hired, and new investments must be done. So, for instance, battery factories, and we can also see that there's a lot of OEMs that are investing in battery factories, and they're super expensive. So, also expensive. Also, this takes a lot of time. And as an add-on to this, we need batteries. We need a lot of batteries. And the component shortage that we've seen for semiconductors, that's just an appetizer compared to the battery shortage that will come, and the connected energy shortage that we will see. So the world is entering a new type of crisis, and we have experienced this type of crisis before. I'm talking about the energy crisis. We've already entered that. So I believe that green energy solutions that will grow as one of the reasons for electrifying the transport. Smart vehicle to grid solution will also grow, and EVs will be a part of the grid system. It will not be what will tip the grid system over the edge, but it will be a part of the grid system. Consumers will be able to buy and sell electricity when it's expensive versus cheap. Again, so communication to the grid, charging station, etc., that's a necessity for this to work. And another guess is that we will soon see new type of vehicles on the street, smaller electric vehicles fit for 2 persons and easy to get around in. Okay, so that was it about electrified, and now the last of these first 5 mega trends, that's the digitized. So this, when we're talking about digitized, this is quite big actually when we talk about digitalization. This could be about digitizing the enterprises, all from selling the car online and being able to let your workforce work remote, of course. These things are easy. And most OEMs and most companies have already done, they're already done with that. So this is not where the real challenge is. The real challenge is the car itself. The car is not the type of product it once was. Everybody working with car manufacturer knows this. But the digitization of the car is just started. So today the car needs to be a smartphone on wheels, a super complicated smartphone. Automakers needs to become software houses. And now I'm coming back to what I said before, the software-shaped car. So building the physical car will become the easy part in car manufacturing. And I'm not saying it's easy to build a car. It's not easy at all, but that will become the easy part. Specifically now when the combustion parts are out, it is the part of building and updating the software that is going to be the hard part. And as the same thing with your smartphone, you would never accept to bring your smartphone to the store to get the software updated. And in the same way, you don't want to do that. You don't want to bring your car to a workshop to be updated. It all has to be done over the air. And just an example that is connected to this, Volkswagen has set a target to develop a new car in 30 months instead of 50 as it is today. So a brand new car from scratch. And the traditional automakers, they say, okay, it's impossible. Well, we know that now that it is not impossible because Tesla is doing it. And I agree, Tesla has some quality problems, but they are doing it. They are developing a brand new car from scratch to fully functional in 30 months. But the philosophy that Tesla has had, and traditional automakers also must have, is that the car is not completely done when it's sold and delivered to the customers. The hardware is done, but not the software. The software of the car will never be done. It will constantly be developed and evolve with new software that is updated over the air to the car. Also talking about digitized and digitalization. Digitalization, that's an enabler for being disruptive. And to be perfectly honest now within the vehicle industry, disruptive, that is the new normal. If you sell a car and it's the same after 5 years, you have most likely failed. Vehicle software needs to they need constant update to be fully functional, and not just updated, also disrupted surprises towards the consumers, Easter egg if you want. So the consumer, I wouldn't say that they demand it, but they like it. And as an effect of this, cars will be sold with hardware that is not activated. We can see that today, that some OEMs are selling cars with all the hardware in it, but it has to be activated by additional purchase, or it could be activated by second or third owner. And this open up for new business and new revenue streams. And I believe that over-the-air updates will grow hugely. So as a summary, C.A.S.E.D is happening. All of these trends are happening, what we talked about 6 years ago, but there's still some hurdles that needs to be climbed. And I'm going to add one more challenge to this that covers all parts of the C.A.S.E.D concept. And I will also add one of a solution to think about. So, okay, so the part that I want to add is sustainability, and everybody knows about this. You hear it on TV all the time. So the world needs it, we know that, and the customer wants it. So it's a given fact that automakers need to take this into production and in the lifetime of the car. So this covers everything from production, materials, also suppliers. You need to make sure, everybody needs to make sure that the suppliers are also sustainable. So it's possible to go back and track. A few examples on this, what's going on right now. So Polestar, they have launched their Zero project. It's 0 tons carbon dioxide equivalent. More than a year ago, they launched that. And they're talking about cradle to gate, and then the usage of the vehicle is removed because you never know what the consumer, how the consumers, so to say, treating the vehicle, how they are charging it, etc. But thereafter the gray, so everything in a poster can be reused with and some circular thinking in there as well. C.A.S.E and Lightyear, two other OEMs, they are producing a car with serious solar panels that has super low drag coefficient and therefore very long range because it can charge at the same time as you drive and also when it's parked. Hyundai Kia, they are thinking circular and are using reused materials in their cars. So they don't offer leather seats anymore, they offer vegan leather seats, which is reused materials. Volvo, they have announced that they will be all electric by 2030. There are a bunch of brands that have done that, and they will be climate neutral by 2040. Mercedes has taken in the UN Sustainable Development Goals in their strategy. This is the only OEM that I know that will have done this. And this continues. You can just take a look at a bunch of OEMs and see how they are working with sustainability. So everybody's talking about sustainability and the customers are hearing about it, putting pressure. So sustainability is something that all automakers must have a strategy around. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what I think is the solution to this a bit, and that is partnership. I think that's a solution to be successful. And I'm not saying that this is a easy solution to work with partnership, but automakers today, they are used to work alone with a large portfolio of suppliers. And they have a little bit that suppliers supply into the OEM processes because they still want it to be an OEM invention. And the not invented here thinking needs to go away. The new take on this is to be involved in partnership. Bring in the supplier and let them have a role in the development. Let them take larger responsibilities as the automakers turn into software houses. This is a must. Automakers cannot do everything by themselves. It would just be too slow. And if you want to be quick, you want to work as a quick pace startup, you need to think like a startup. And one example, to accelerate the development of software and integration between software and hardware, Mercedes has started in what they call their electronic software hub, which is actually a large physical building as a headquarter. And as an addition to this, they have a network of technicians working around the globe. And Mercedes have invested 200 million euros in this hub, where they can have all of this development under one roof and at the same time connect a worldwide partnership network to work around the clock. And in this hub, they bring in all of their partners to work together. They realize that if they are going to succeed and compete with newcomers, they need to change their relationship with their partners. They cannot do this by themselves. And I'm not suggesting that everybody should build a 200 million house or building, but this is one way of doing it, and there are several other ways of doing it. And I think the only wrong way of doing it is not to set up close partnership. Okay, to explain what I mean with partnership, because I think the partnership part here is super important, I'm going to compare this to the smartphone market. And I hope you can see, but I have a phone here. This is the last non-smartphone that I had. This is a Nokia E71. I thought this phone was great. I thought that I could do everything with this phone. I could check my mail. It even had an app store. I think it was called Ovi. It was excellent, and I couldn't really understand how could they make phones even smarter. And then iPhone launched their first smartphone. So why am I comparing this to the vehicle industry? It's not the same thing, a phone and a vehicle. A vehicle is way more complicated, and yes, it's way more complicated. I'm just comparing them because the cell phone industry went through the similar type of transformation. So what was the deal? Why did Apple or iPhone, how come that they succeeded where Nokia couldn't? Well, it's because of this. It's because of the SDK layer. So Apple, they set up this SDK. It stands for Software Development Kit, and it's a development tool that makes it possible for developers to build application towards a specific framework and predefined hardware and software platform tools. So Apple, they made a few apps that were on the phone, on the smartphone, and then they had thousands of third-party players that made software apps for Apple users, and they made them for free. Or actually, Apple was actually getting paid for them. So Apple opened up not just to sell smartphones, but they opened up new revenue stream when third-party players develop apps for them. Okay, so going back to what I said earlier, that cars are today's software product, this is exactly what vehicle manufacturers also need to do. So they need to build excellent collaboration platforms for third-party players to provide software. And the combination of the software and the hardware and the cloud, because the cloud is super important in this, is what will become the car OS, if you will. I call it the car OS. So we will need to have standardized car SDKs and thereafter develop one car OS system that has the potential to be updated over time. We need to have a built-in chip-to-cloud architecture. This will be better for end users because it will give greater value, and better for OEMs because it will remove lock-ins and also create new revenue streams. So OEMs, they will be more like integrators, MNOs will be more enablers, and third parties will be software providers. So one more thing, and that is the automakers also need to have focus on building collaboration platforms. That's why I'm adding this last box here. So on a technical level, there will be different types of platforms for different domain of the cars, but we also need to have collaboration platform for processes, everything from contracts to onboarding and invoices, etc. Okay, so I will now end this presentation with a quote actually that I think is super good and connected to this. That is from Peter Drucker, and it says, the greatest danger in times of turbulence, because this is truly turbulence, it's not the turbulence itself, it's acting with yesterday's logic. Okay, also we have now just launched a white paper around this, and you can scan this QR code. Thank you very much, appreciate you calling in.